Loneliness is a new silent killer. It is associated with morbidity and even death. There are 871,000 deaths per year directly associated with loneliness. It translates to about 2 deaths per hour. That is alarming. In our current hyper-connected world, despite instant messaging, social media, video calls, people are getting lonely. Recent reports have shown that the brains are shrinking among teens constantly engaging in social media and technology. There's a reason and there's a science for that. In this video, we're going to talk about why we are getting lonely. We're going to talk about the connection of loneliness to insomnia and fatigue, which in itself causes morbidity. We're going to talk about the cardiac effects, especially arrhythmia and cardiomyopathy. Listen until the end of the video. It might affect you too. The first effect of loneliness, important effect, is the activation of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. When the hypothalamus triggers the pituitary to produce ACTH, or adrenocorticotropin hormone, it then produces cortisol, the stress hormone. There the fun begins. Cortisol increases sugar. Sugar stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system increases your propensity to have vasoconstriction and increasing your blood pressure. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis also stimulates the adrenal to produce independently catecholamines like epinephrine and norepinephrine. The end point is still vasoconstriction. So the more, you will be predisposed to hypertension. Chronic effects of hypertension leads to end-stage chronic disease, organ damage like chronic kidney disease, dementia, atherosclerosis, which predisposes you to cardiovascular events like heart attack and stroke. So loneliness to death. Loneliness is highly associated with increase in inflammatory markers like interleukin-1, interleukin-6, and tumor necrosis factors. Why is this important? These decreases the ability of the mitochondria to produce ATP, therefore less energy, and then you feel fatigue. If the brain is devoid of ATP, you feel fatigued, and also you will have brain fogging. You are not able to concentrate well. So it needs to be declogged with antioxidants like vitamin C and glutathione. It reduces the activity of the natural killer cells. These natural killer cells have been identified like bats clinging at the blood vessels, and it only needs to be shaken up. When you exercise, it does release these natural killer cells, but when you're lonely, it just sticks in these blood vessels, which decreases its activity. Natural killer cells are responsible for scavenging virus, the bacteria, or the tumor cells that's circulating in the blood circulation. That is the reason why when you're lonely, you might be predisposed to simple infection, to tumor, or cancer. Insomnia, loneliness because of increase in inflammatory markers, circadian rhythm is disrupted. Many people would wake up in the middle of the night and not able to go back to sleep. Now remember, sleep deprivation is another factor, another stress for the body. There's an entity called takotsubo cardiomyopathy. This causes the muscle of the heart to stun. It cannot function. There is no clogging of the arteries in the coronary arteries, but it's just the muscle that's weak and not able to function. It is associated with death. Loneliness is also associated with delayed wound healing because loneliness causes inflammation, which weakens the ability to stage a defense against virus and infection. What about mental health? People who are lonely have decrease in the volume of the hippocampus. Hippocampus is a seat of joy and memory, and it may change the configuration of the size of the amygdala, which is the center for anxiety, anger, and depression. So it feeds the frenzy of negative emotions, predisposing someone to become depressed, anxious when you're lonely. So how do we intervene loneliness? What happens when you reach out to people and you engage in conversation or engage in relationship? When you reach out to people, the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is responsible for emotional regulation, attention, and compassion, increases in volume. When you further meditate, especially meditating the unconditional love of Jesus, this prefrontal cortex increases in size, which allows you to be more responsive and more predisposed to reaching out to people who are lonely, as you are lonely too. When you meditate, it decreases the amygdala reactivity, which is a center for fear and threat perception. It boosts neurotransmitters that helps your mood elevate, serotonin, GABA, and taurine, which calms the brain, so you don't feel threatened at all to reach out to people and be connected with human beings. It increases oxytocin, the neurotransmitter for bonding and love. So the result, there's better focus, there's emotional stability, and sense of love and connection. This creates a sense of being seen, known, and loved unconditionally. It is the same unconditional love that we're mimicking, Christ's unconditional love for us. And if we meditate this, the unconditional love of Jesus, which He accepted even before He was born, to be united with the suffering of humanity, will be felt by those who are lonely. Meditation activates the limbic pathway in a safe and healing way. It's like an emotional catharsis. As a result, there's a feeling of emotionally held, secure, forgiven, and loved. Meditation works, especially when you meditate on the unconditional love of Jesus through His passion. It also refrains your personal suffering. If you meditate on His unconditional love through His passion, you see Christ as a sufferer with us and for us. It reframes our own pain. The pain becomes not a punishment, but as something shared and even redeemed, who unconditionally loved us even before He was born. And He recruited His mother, the Virgin Mary, to be united in His suffering. Meditation reduces rumination. It helps you do away with negative thoughts and being trapped in that circuitry of negative thoughts and self-blaming and even self-pity. As a result, suffering becomes bearable and spiritually transformative. The unconditional love meditation of Jesus, when you meditate, reminds us that we are loved not because of what we do, but because of who He is, who is so good. Nothing from us adds to His greatness. He's full of love, unconditional love. Unconditional love meditation of the Passion of Christ rebuilds identity eroded by trauma, rejection, or loneliness. So when you're lonely, meditate on His unconditional love because He loved us so much. Unconditional love meditation encourages self-compassion through divine compassion. It's a divine compassion from God that He sacrificed His only Son and created the Virgin Mary for Jesus to be able to go and join humanity. As a result, unconditional love meditation restores dignity, hope, and inner security. When you meditate the unconditional love of Jesus through His passion, there is a visualization which provides imaginative engagement, seeing Christ's wounds, feeling His agony, His emotion. Now remember, physical pain was probably not the most painful part of Jesus' passion. It was the agonizing feeling of being betrayed by His friends. Meditation triggers unconditional love meditation of Christ's passion also generates trigger neurons. What does it mean? It is not really a formal neuroscience term. In this context, it refers to a group of neurons or neural networks that are activated or triggered during deep meditative state, especially those involving emotional intensity, relational imagery. If you imagine the scenes of the Passion, visual or imagination, the hearing, the pounding of the nails on the body of Jesus, the footsteps of the Roman soldiers, feel the pounding of Jesus' heart as He was anticipating the arrival of these Roman soldiers. It is an embodied compassion. Transcendence or unity is experienced. Unconditional love meditation of Christ's passion simulates relationship with Christ. It emotionally integrates, makes us united. Now, this may lead to tears. These are not feelings, but these are emotion of the Holy Spirit, inspiring us to feel the presence of Jesus, to feel His unconditional love for us through His passion. We have to reach out to people out of charity. Maybe an exercise, or maybe playing tennis with another friend. And guess what? This will increase your BDNF, or brain-derived neurotropic factor, which also stimulates the brain to exercise more. So if we exercise, reach out to people, increase your oxytocin to improve your relationship. This is Dr. Raul Enad from Cadenza Medical Clinic. If you like this video, subscribe so that you will be informed of our next production of our video in our series about medicine and faith. Thank you very much.